Well, hey, y'all, I'm Melanie Redd, and I want to welcome you to Ordinary Women, Extraordinary God on video. We've done podcasts, we've done social media, we've sent you emails, but many of you have said that you would love to see and hear our conversations. And so we want you to get a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, go on again and enjoy this conversation. Today, I'm talking with my longtime friend, Wren. In fact, Wren, I don't remember not knowing you.
I know.
Yes. And she's a little younger than me. In fact, she was in sixth grade when I was teaching third grade in a school in town. But our families are friends. We've been at church together, and it's fun to introduce you to somebody I know in real life, not just an online friend. But Wren has such joy, and she encourages women, and I wanted you to have the chance to meet her today. So welcome, Wren. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. You know how much I love video and audio, and so combining the two is fun for us. So,
and so many people were telling me, they said, we want to see you. What are you wearing? What jewelry do you have on? You know, what's your hair look like? And I think it's just more meaningful when you see people's gestures and smiles and hear them and the whole experience. So yeah, I'm excited for everybody that's watching to be able to have the experience of sort of joining us for conversation. So it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And it is. My new puppy's right beside me. He may bark. The trash men are in the neighborhood today. You never know what might get recorded today.
I was thinking the same thing. We're living with my parents. We're building a house. My dad is coming home after his coffee, and the dog is here. So this is real life, right?
This is real life. Yes, right. I only know how to edit the beginning and the end. I don't know how to edit anything else. So
all good.
Real life. Here we go. Well, Wren, tell us a little bit about you. Introduce yourself and let everybody know a little bit about you and what you do.
Oh my goodness. I love it. And I love Melanie. Melanie you have been an amazing mentor in my life and so encouraging to me. Many times Melanie will text me and say, hey, how can I pray for you? And it's so meaningful and so impactful for me, who is starting this journey as a mom. I mean, my child is 10, but she's gone ahead of me. And so it's really helpful to have somebody like Melanie in my life. So I'm so grateful to you, Melanie. And I'm Wren Robbins. Yes, that is my real name. My mom and dad named me after a Suzanne Plachette character from the 1970s. Shout out to the 70s. But I married Jim Robbins. And so I have a double bird name, as people say, Wren Robbins, and you can't make this stuff up. So we live right outside Memphis, Tennessee area. I am started a podcast for my ministry to women back in 2016 called The Friends of a Feather. And that led me to starting my new podcast called Don't Wing It, which is podcast strategy, because I help women plan, produce, and promote their podcast for their business. And that is me.
Yeah. And I will tell you while we're on that topic, Wren helped me when we got started about a year ago with Ordinary Women, Extraordinary God. At the time, it was called Women Living Courageously. And I had never done a podcast. So Wren helped me get ready. And we'll talk a little bit more about, if you're interested in a podcast, how you can get in touch with her. But she's a joy and she's a treat. So it's fun to get to talk to you today. Well, let me ask you this. We are ordinary women who are pursuing an extraordinary God. So I like to ask women, how are you ordinary? How are you just one of the girls?
Oh man, Melanie, this question could go on for hours. I am such a dork. Can we say that live? Like I am. I'm just a regular girl. Like I just am. I'm started podcasting in my closet. Like I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm the one that does the things that you just shake your head and like, oh gosh, did you just really do that? You know, like I am just so ordinary. If there was anyone that is so ordinary, it is me. Just basic mom. I used to be a teacher and that's it. Started podcasting in my closet. So nothing extraordinary about me in the least.
Yeah, but I would tell you what I love about you. Wren makes the most fun videos and reels. And so if you follow her on Facebook or Instagram, you need to. And we'll make sure I'll put that in the description section in YouTube and on Facebook. You'll be able to read about that. But Wren makes me laugh, and she's not afraid to do fun videos. So if you need to laugh, you need to follow Wren. So
I mean, you have to make
that.
it fun. That's what
I know,
social
but
media is
I think it's
about. We need to
great.
get back to that.
We
Yeah, got
need
to get
some
back to
fun
that.
friends and we need some fun. Life is too
Yeah.
serious some days. So I
Yeah.
love your sense of humor and that you have kind of this zest for life and
Yeah.
that you have a lot of fun and enjoy what you're doing. So I
I
think that's
do.
great.
I'm
Yes.
so grateful that I get to do what I
Yeah.
do.
Me
But
too.
it's just, yeah, it's totally ordinary Wren here.
Well, let me ask you this on the flip side. How have you found God to be extraordinary?
Mm. I love this question because I think about when my husband and I were trying to have a baby and we're going through infertility. We didn't share it with anybody except our parents. And it was such a private deal, but it was such a time where we really came closer to the Lord, came closer to each other. And it was the time when I had to let control go. And so when I think about extraordinary and how God is extraordinary, and he gave us a baby, and I'm not saying that is why he's extraordinary. He gave us that, and so he wasn't just extraordinary for us in what he gave to us, but then in and through us. And so, you can think about beauty from ashes and how you think about how just in my mind and at that point of my life, I was just ashes, just like I don't have anything left. Like I remember sitting in the Kroger grocery store parking lot and just coming to the realization that I might not be able to have a biological child. And I had to be okay with that and say, Lord, it's not my will, it's yours. And so just thinking about how extraordinary God is, that he would give that to us as grace, as a grace gift, but then he did something amazing in and through us that could not have been done any other way. I don't think, as in my human perspective, because of the lack of control we had, and just to really give it to the Lord and just be content with what that looked like for us.
That's a sweet testimony. And I can tell you, it seems like when we do get content and we surrender, God's able to work. I've seen it many times when a girl says, I'll never get married. I have a friend that married at 60 for the first time. You see that happen all the time. People give up, surrender having a baby, and then God gives them children. Or whatever the case may be. They surrendered the job, they surrendered the money, the husband, whatever. And sometimes he says yes, and sometimes he says no, but he's good all the time. And it sounds like you've experienced his goodness and his sweetness.
Yeah. And just the graciousness, because I remember, and even after having our son, it was a learning experience for me because, I made a little video when we were having him, and when we found out, and, we videoed our parents finding out without them knowing, and then put it all into a video. And then at the end of the video, I showed a scripture, and it was great is thy faithfulness. And so from that, you can kind of say, oh, well, God, and in my mind, I was like, God is faithful because he gave us this baby. And that is not true. God is faithful because that's his character. His character is to be faithful. And so he's gracious in giving us that baby. But he's faithful no matter what. If we had a baby biologically or not, his character is to be faithful and good. And so I learned even after that of how my theology was a little bit skewed in that, and what I have learned. Even, I know we're going to talk a little bit about this, about what have you learned, but it's so important to know God and know his character, because that's how we are surrendered to him, because we can trust him and trust his faithfulness.
Well, and it's a challenge because he is faithful. That is who he is. That's just a period is at the end, but it is hard sometimes when he says no, or he says not yet. And I've had those times, and I can look back later, not at the time, but I can say, thank you that I did not get that job. Thank you that friend went a different direction. Thank you that opportunity did not open up, because so often we see his faithfulness on the other end too. And so there may be somebody watching that's saying, well, he didn't give me what I prayed for. He's still faithful. And if you need it, you will have it. if the desire of your heart and God has not given it to you yet, you keep praying. But there's a certain point where we just say, nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done, because he knows what's best.
And I was thinking about a funny story I'll tell you in a minute, but then also, after we had our son, we desired a second child, and God decided not to give us that specifically like we were thinking. And then I started the podcast Friends of a Feather years ago, and that became like my second baby. And you just don't know what it's going to look like in a different way. That was my ministry. And so now I'm ministering to women business owners. And so but I'll tell you this funny story. Okay. So we prayed that we would have twins. At first, when we were going through infertility, we were like, I started praying for twins, and now look back and say, thank you, Lord. Thank you. Thank you. I know children are a blessing, but thank you that you didn't give me that, because I'm good. I'm good. One and done. We're good.
I think you're right. I think we're going to get to heaven one day and we're going to say, thank you that you did not answer that and you didn't answer that, because we think we're smart, but God is all knowing and God knows best. And it's hard because sometimes we're like, if I just had this, but maybe that's the very thing God knows we don't need. And
absolutely.
He could drop it in our laps in an instance. But I just encourage you, if you're listening to us today or watching and you're thinking there's some things that aren't settled, keep talking to God about it. I love how there's a speaker, Christine Kane, she's an author, and she says, keep talking, keep asking questions until God gives you peace to quit. And so keep on. But at a certain point, if he says no, it's okay to say okay and move on and trust there was purpose in that closed door. Yeah.
And he's going to give you that contentment. Like I can't even tell you how much contentment that we felt, both of us, my husband and I, after and God, it comes from God. It doesn't come from anybody else. So
that's such a great testimony. Thank you for sharing that. I think somebody will be able to relate to that, because I think as women, we set out how we want things to be, and it may or may not be God's perfect plan for us. And so we keep trusting him because he is faithful. That's a great word. Well, let me ask you this. Kind of switching channels a little bit. What are you looking forward to this year? What are you excited about in this new year? What you're going to be doing in the next few months? What are you looking ahead to?
Well, like I said earlier, my husband and I and my son and our 70-pound golden retriever, Addie, I have been living with my parents because we are building a house. And so I am most looking forward to getting in our house. It has been wonderful, and my parents have been angels to have us in their home. And it's been 18 months. It was only going to be a year. And then God changed our plans for where we were going to build to somewhere totally different. But it has been really sweet, and they have been so gracious. But I am looking forward to moving into our new home with a porch so I can sit and drink my tea in the morning and read God's word. That is that's the spot. I'm so looking forward to that.
Yay,
so we're looking forward to that. Yeah.
Okay. So when is it projected? When do you hope to get into your new home?
June or summer-ish. We said summer-ish. So I'm like, well, summer is like, June to September. Fall doesn't come until September. So we got some wiggle room. So
well, that's exciting. I'm excited for you. That's going to be really fun when you finally get that. And I'll get to actually see it. So that's kind of fun.
I know, in real life. Can't wait to have y'all over.
I know it. Well, let me ask you this question. What else has God been teaching you? Is there a word you're focused on this year? Is there a book you're reading, a book of the Bible, some way you're studying that you think might encourage another woman? What's something God's been doing in your life? And you say, man, I think somebody else could really benefit from hearing this.
Yeah, I have been walking through reading the Bible chronologically with IVMA Chronological Bible Teaching. They have a new app out that you can read, and you can actually hear a 5-minute, I think they call it like a hot spot or something like that in the beginning of your day. Something shot of. And it's really good, but I've been going through that for the past few years, and it's just so neat to see it chronologically. And I grew up in church. You know that, Melanie. I grew up in church. I became a Christian when I was 8 years old. And so, but for me to actually read it and then really study it and know what the whole Bible is about and that the character of God, I think the Old Testament usually used to just totally just confuse me. And so now it's like the first time in my life that I have really understood the God of the Old Testament, the God of the Bible. And it's so enlightening and so just so good. And it goes deep. And then now I'm able to pass it on to my son. So that is what I'm looking forward to, continuing to do that, and to really continuing to hopefully have a small group at my house when we move in. I really want to have that next year. And my word of the year, because I listened to a podcast episode that you did, and it was so helpful about picking a word of the year. And my word is diligence. It's being diligent. And so that is something that I do like to kind of chill. I'm kind of definitely a like, let's veg out in the den kind of person.
Yeah.
And that can really, I mean, I think I do the minimal. And I think that being diligent in all areas of life, in my home life, of providing really good, healthy meals for my family, and providing that structure for my son in the afternoons, and providing just that diligence in sharing what I'm learning in my Bible time. Just that diligence and diligence in marketing my business, is being very diligent in that. And it's been a really good start to the year, a good challenge. Even you said, I think it was last week, you said, hey, how can I pray for you? And I was like, hey, I'm going to work really, really hard from 9 to 2, and I'm like going to get it done. I'm not doing social media, and it was a great week because I really pushed hard. And toward Thursday and Friday, I was like, ooh, yeah, this is where I'm seeing my endurance kind of slack off. And so just having that word at the forefront of my mind in all areas, of being diligent in all areas. And God gave me that through listening to your podcast and then doing
that's great
with what you suggested. So
I love that. Well, you know what I'll do in the notes below? I'll put how to choose your word. I'll link to that podcast, and we'll get the information from you about the Chronological Bible Study in case somebody wants to look that up and is interested in reading the Bible that way. I think that's a great idea.
There's a lot of resources for that too. You're not doing it alone. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll share that, because sometimes we talk about things and I'm like, somebody's going to want to know about this.
Oh yeah, it's incredible.
So that's great. Well, I'll tell you something kind of funny. I read a book last year called Win the Day by Mark Batterson.
Yeah, I have it. I haven't read it. I need to be diligent.
Very good book. I'll link it below too. But he talks about eat the frog, and I don't know where it comes from, but it's the idea of, if you got to start your day, you do the most difficult thing that you least want to do first. And I've started doing that, and it helps because it's like you just tackle the hardest task. So if you've got to clean the bathroom, or you've got to make a phone call you don't want to make, or whatever it is, if you'll do that first, it helps you win the day. So it sounds like you're really learning to kind of put yourself on a schedule and get going and do those things you need to do in the best time of your day.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. And that's in the morning.
That's great. You go, girl.
Thank you. Girl. I definitely need your accountability on that.
Yeah, you got it. You're doing great. Let me ask you this. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to reach you? Where do you like for people to contact you?
Yeah, I am on Instagram at Wren Robbins Coach. That's really, I hang out there a lot, or just email wren@wrenrobbins.com. That's the easiest way.
Okay. And we'll put that information for you, and we'll put it below for you. But I tell y'all, if you're watching, people like for you to get in touch with them. I love when people send me emails, or notes, direct message. A direct message is just that message button on Facebook or Instagram. I love when somebody sends me a note and says, hey, will you tell me about this? Or what was that book you read? Or will you pray for me? I love personal notes. And I know you probably do too, Wren.
I do too. Oh, it's so, my love language is words of affirmation. So getting a note or hearing a message, it's just.
Well, and we're doing a virtual ministry. And so I need to hear from you, because I'm not seeing y'all in real life. And so send us a note, make a comment below, or ask a question below when you watch this, or get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. I know somebody told me the other day that if you're of a certain age, we kind of just get on and look. And my generation is more apt to do that. I meet people all the time and they'll say, I see your things all the time. And I'm like, well, you didn't comment. So it's good to comment. That's a good thing to be.
We want that
on social media. So please contact us, get in touch with Wren if you want to know more about her podcast coaching, or more about what she's reading, or even the word for the year. And if you just want to meet her and talk to her, she's fun to know. So
I would love it. Oh, thank you. I would love to meet.
It's not weird to reach out to somebody on social media.
So great. Yeah. I have met so many people online, and it's the best. It really is great. Yeah. I would have listen, and I was that person on Facebook. I was not on Facebook and Instagram when everybody else was. So I'm come a long way, baby.
Yeah. Well, I think
I
if
love
you're
it.
over 40, I think if you're 40 or over, you probably are in this mentality because our kids don't think anything about
Oh
getting in
no.
each other's inboxes and all that. But I think we're
No.
a little reluctant because if we don't know someone or know them well, but it is okay. It is like acceptable
Great.
to reach out to someone and say, hey, I'm so and so. I saw your video, or I saw you on Melanie's video, or on Ordinary Women, Extraordinary God. So it is good to reach out. I just want to throw that plug in there because I think we forget and we think we're just supposed to watch or listen and move on, but we want to know you too. So let us know
That's such a good
about
word.
you and what God's teaching you and maybe what
Yeah,
you're learning. That'd be good.
absolutely. I love it.
Yes. Yes. All right. Well, one more question before we go. People
Okay.
always, when I do these interviews, when I do podcasts, I like to ask this because sometimes there's one more thing you want to share. So is there anything else, a verse, a quote, just something to encourage those that are watching that you say, man, I just got to share one more thing?
Yeah. Lately, we have had a lot of grief. I've been hearing about a lot of grief, a lot of heaviness. And so I think back to when I recorded Friends of a Feather with Angie Luce. And she came on and said, she said, my grandfather said this, which we'll share that who that is in a minute. But she had lost a baby, and it was a really hard time because they knew when the baby Poppy was in her womb that they were that it was going to be fatal. And so she came and shared her story with me, her God story. And so there was a lot of, heavy grief that they were walking through. And she said this, and I'm not going to do it justice, but she said, my grandfather told me that, or I not told me, but I heard him say for years that, and I'm just paraphrasing, but Wren paraphrase, but that if we could understand and why God does the way he does things, then he wouldn't be God. And it stuck with me. And so now we know there's just so much grief in the world and so much hardship and so much tragedy and heaviness that we need to say, God, you're sovereign and we are not. And we rest in that. And you are faithful, you are trustworthy, and we trust you. And so whatever you're walking through, if it is a huge tragedy or if it isn't, maybe it's just a letdown of something that happened with, a coworker or something with a kiddo or something like that, a broken friendship. God is there, and we need to rest in him and trust in him that he knows what he's doing. He is sovereign. And so that has been really comforting lately to hear that. And her grandfather is the late Dr. Adrian Rogers. And and I don't remember, Melanie, him saying those specific words, but it sounds just like him. Like I know he said it. And so when hearing that from her, that we can trust him and we're not going to be able to understand everything. And that's the mystery of God, and that's his sovereignty. And we just need to trust in him. So that's what I would say right now is whatever you're walking through is that he's trustworthy, and getting in his word and getting to know him and his characters is a way that we can see that he's trustworthy. He says what he's going to do. It started back in the garden. He was merciful and loving toward them by banishing them out of the garden so they wouldn't eat out of the tree of life that would make them live forever in their sin. Like, he's so merciful. He's so gracious. And so that's what I would say that I'm saying to myself when we're hearing about a lot of tragedy recently.
That's a good word. And I think I hear what you're saying. You're saying, even when we don't understand and even when it makes no sense, we still trust him because he's trustworthy and he's God. And we do. And so that is a great way to kind of conclude what we've talked about today. I think that's been the theme. And I love how these conversations kind of have a theme. And as we go, thank you, Wren. I really appreciate you joining us. This has been sweet. It's been good to talk about things that matter and things that are on our hearts. And I'm praying that those that are watching and that will see this when you do will be encouraged and will be blessed and will be reminded God is good. That's such a good word. Yes.
Good.
And as we go, I just want to encourage you. Our whole goal of our ministry is to encourage you to laugh without fear of the future and to walk as women living courageously. And we are ordinary women, but we serve an extraordinary God, and he cares greatly about you. So bless you, and we'll look forward to seeing